Hey, my name is Clay McLeod Chapman, and I'm very honored to be here today to read a little bit from my most recent novel called Whisper Down the Lane, which just came out in paperback this early in April. So I'm going to actually read the very first chapter, just a little bit of it, to give you a little taste test. And oh yeah, if you enjoy this, there's a lot more spookiness where that came from. But yes, this is the first chapter of Whisper Down the Lane. They found Professor Howdy spread across the soccer field. What was left of him, at least. His chest cavity had been carefully cracked open, his rib cage fanning back as if it were the glistening crimson trigger hairs on a Venus flytrap, patiently waiting for its prey to wander inside its gaping maw. The entirety of his intestines, both large and small, had been gingerly unspooled to the end of their connective tissues across the lawn in some sort of luminous pattern. Now, I say luminous because his guts looked like beams of wet sunlight radiating out from the rest of his hollow self. Pattern because there seemed to be a particular, methodology to the placement of his organs. Someone arranged them to look this way on purpose, to see. But for who, though? It felt like he was meant to be revered. And I say revered because even to my eye, there was something beatific to the way his body was presented. Holy, almost. And trust me, this is coming from a completely non-religious person. I've never set foot inside a church. Well, that's not entirely true. There were a few visits to Sunday school that I can barely recall at this point. Distant memories by now. I vaguely remember taking communion as a kid once. Take and eat, the pastor said as he pressed a stale cracker past my lips. For this is my body. That dry sacramental wafer adhered itself to the roof of my mouth. I couldn't wash out the pasty undertaste for the rest of the day, stuck with this phantom flavor on my tongue. But that was years ago, a whole lifetime ago. Now, all I'm trying to say is even I could sense the awe of this grisly exhibition. Feel it somehow, the downright ardor of it. Professor Howdy's lungs fanned out like angel wings flapping against the grass. The liver, the stomach, the spleen. That is the spleen, isn't it? They were placed in exacting precision. Each organ was its own celestial body orbiting the corpse it had erupted from. His heart now rested in the patch of grass directly above his head, a bleeding crown. The dawn broke an hour or so before our school's groundskeeper, Diego, I think his name is, discovered the poor professor. The morning sun found his body first, pelt, glistening in dew. His blood had a crystalline sheen against the green, like red stained glass. Something that you might see in Sunday services. Saint Howdy, our school's tragic rabbit, angelic white fur and glazed over pink eyes, captured amongst all of the other apostles. Professor Howdy was always kept in Miss Castevet's classroom. He belonged to our school, its students, but Miss Castevet was ultimately responsible for his upkeep. That meant, cleaning out his cage, feeding him, picking up the poo pellets. The nitty-gritty stuff that nobody else, particularly the kids, ever wanted to get their hands dirty doing. Most students were always welcome to stop by Miss Castevet's classroom and pay Professor Howdy a visit. She set up these designated feeding hours for anyone to swing on by and offer up a handful of rabbit chow for him to nibble directly out of their palm. And sometimes, on the specialist of occasions, as Miss Castevet's liked to say, she would even pull Professor Howdy out from his cage and let him hop around the classroom. Door closed, of course. There had been that one particular incident at the very beginning of the school year when someone, I'm not going to name any names, Benjamin Pendleton, left the classroom door open and the professor broke free, hopping down the hall. The ensuing manhunt, bunny hunt, was a school-wide event. All the students got involved in the search party. But eventually, he popped up in my classroom. I spotted him tucked behind the tempera paints, struggling to squirm further in. I was hailed as a hero for returning the professor to his cage unharmed, alive, and in one piece, The new art teacher saves the day! The students all sang, "Hooray for Mr. Bellamy!" Everybody loved Professor Howdy. He was, without a doubt, the Danvers School's unofficial mascot. Now, who would think about doing something as awful as this? To a rabbit. Our rabbit. And I'm going to end right there. So, if you like that, then I think you should read the rest. It's a whisper down the lane. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful StokerCon. I'm really excited to be there in person and virtually as well. See you soon.